Alright, everyone. Apologies for being late. Had to take care of something. Let's go ahead and get the formalities out of the way because we have 3 chapters to go over for today's reflections. And plus, I got lunch on the way sometime soon, so I want to get through all of this in a decent amount of time. So let's go ahead and get the formalities out of the way, shall we? Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to yet another One Piece Reflections for the month of May. To those who don't know, I do this at the end of every month as we go over the chapters of One Piece that we get every single month. Now, unlike April, where we only got 2 chapters because we went on a significantly long break, we got 3 chapters in the month of May, with a lot of them, with pretty much the majority of them, dealing with the events that happened during the Reverie, which we didn't find out about, specifically about the Revolutionary Army. So, let's get started with the first chapter, and then we'll go over I wouldn't say patch notes, we'll go over the notes of each chapter, and then we'll talk about it, and then that'll be it for the stream. But you know, these talks tend to be quite long, depending on the subject matter that we come across. So let me pull up the notes here for chapter 1082, long summary, and the major notes. All right, so in the very first chapter of this month, chapter 1082, let's go and take it. It begins with Vice Admiral T-Bone, which is one of the admirals of the Navy that looks like he's like a zombie a little bit, but he's also well respected due to his nature of like he would prefer to give up his own life than any harm to come to the citizens. So we begin this chapter with the news of his death being in the paper. The passing of Vice Admiral T-Bone, a figure beloved to many in the Navy and the public, sent shockwaves around the world, but the Navy did not reveal his cause of death. And Suru is here talking to Sengoku about how the Cross Guild has become a major problem for the Navy already. It hasn't even been that long since the Cross Guild has been active, but they've already made strides to the point where they're actually hitting high-ranking officials from the Navy. And they already took out Admiral T-Bone. Because the dealing with this is that the Cross Guild is not just specific for pirates to be a part of. It's also available for civilians to take part as well. The Cross Guild is literally an unsanctioned bounty hunting ring that allows people to go after Navy officials the same way the Navy puts out bounties for pirates. And it's, like I said, it's not just specific to pirates. Civilians can take part of this as well. Because Sengoku says, have we found the killer? And Suru says, no leads. All we know is that their family must be living a happy, comfortable life. And Sengoku is just eating more rice crackers going, we're living in the end of days, so Suru, stabbed in the back by the civilians we're sworn to defend. It's sickening. Once there are bounties out on Navy officers, the pirates aren't the only ones who want to collect the money. It happened in the Pepe Kingdom, where over 1,000 people die of hunger every year. Poverty and money will change people. Desperation will change people. Not that I excuse whoever killed him. If this was his goal, then we've sorely overlooked the genius jester. And of course, they bring up Buggy, but we all know that Buggy is not the mastermind behind anything smart that happens over on his side of things. It was really something that Mihawk and Crocodile, and I want to say more so Crocodile, who came up with this idea. Mihawk is like one of the individuals who's all like, I just rather have a nice, quiet place to just chill and kick back when I need to. He's not, I wouldn't say Mihawk is lacking in ambitions, but there's nothing of interest to him for him to be one who's willingly volunteer this whole idea of the Cross Guild. I mean, this is Crocodile. As someone who's reading through the entire Alabasta arc right now, going through the 20s and the volumes, Crocodile is a power-hungry megalomaniac. So, of course, he's the one who came up with the idea for the Cross Guild, and I feel like he's the one who's spearheading most of these big ideas, while Mihawk is just there for the ride. He's really only there just because the Navy made their way to his home because he's no longer one of the 7 warlords of the sea, and the entire system has pretty much been abolished. But Crocodile is the one who's been orchestrating all of these things, and that's allowing these, like, think about it. Back in Alabasta, I literally just read this chapter earlier today. Back in Alabasta, he said he wanted to create a military nation where even the world government wouldn't be able to touch them. And mind you, this is a mindset that he had all the way back in Alabasta. We find out later in the chapters that he still has that same mindset and that same goal years on. 2 years on after the events of Alabasta, he still has that same idea, and paired up with Buggy, who's really there at his status simply because of all the super strong people that follow him, and because of Crocodile and Mihawk who are there with him, he's been recognized as a Yonko. Using that sort of influence will allow Crocodile to bring that sort of ideal to reality. Good to see you, Ogata-san. We're going over to today's chapter. Oh, well, not today's chapter, but the chapters of May. We need to strike down Cross-Guild, the sooner the better. They'll sap the morale of the troops and weaken the navy. And then it cuts to Hina, who basically tells Suru and Sengoku that Garp is already gone to Island Fulalead to rescue Kobe. So this is the first that Sengoku and Suru are finding out that Garp has gone unsanctioned, without permission, of his own volition, to the head island of a Yonko. So that's already upset them. And then we cut to the Cross Guild in Empty Bluffs in the New World, where a citizen, presumably the same citizen who took down T-Bone, is there talking to Buggy, and Buggy is basically telling him, hey, you're basically a pirate now. Like, you can't go back to the old life you used to have. You're basically a pirate. And the dude is like, thank you. I hear the money got sent to my family, which I'm very glad for. Thank you, sir. And then, because the Buggy basically says, of course, you eliminated a vice admiral from Navy headquarters. You're a champion of evil. From what I hear, the incident sent the Navy into a panic. If they ever find you, they'll surely strike your head from your shoulders. So the man can't go back to living the way he used to be, because we have like a short flashback of this man with his family, and they're all just poverty-stricken. They're barely holding on, and they're all starving. Even if I never get to see my family again, it's still better than letting them starve. Have no fear, you're welcome into the fold. Now you're a pirate with me. Don't you get it, man? Buggy the Genius Jester is one of the 4 emperors. Your average pirate never gets within a mile of an audience with him. That's because average pirates know Buggy to be the fake that he is. Buggy is a perfect example of failing upwards. He's a perfect example of failing upwards. And mind you, every single person that willingly follows Buggy are devoid of common sense. They never once see a true... Because when you think about it, Buggy's never had a true show of strength towards his crewmates for them to have an affirmation of like, oh yes, he is strong enough to lead us. No. Every single time there comes a moment where people start to question him, some miraculous moment of happenstance happens directly in front of Buggy that paints it as if he's blessed with divine providence. Like, the heavens themselves open up in order for Buggy to be able to exact any miracle that seems to happen at the exact moment he's there. Mind you, Buggy's doing none of these things, but it just looks that way to so many of these dumb pirates who follow him from the outside. Crocodile knows better. Literally everyone except the pirates who are just so enamored with Buggy know him to be the fake, to be the fraud. Everyone knows Buggy is weak. He literally has no power. He's done nothing with his abilities over the past 2 years for him to be fully physically recognized as a Yonko. He's just, we've seen the power of the people who currently have the Yonko's position. We've seen the power of Shanks. He's ridiculously strong. We saw what happened with him against Kid and Killer. Then we have Blackbeard. We already know how strong he is, plus he's the only person in the entire history of One Piece to carry not 1 but 2 Devil Fruit powers, as well as his entire crew being physically strong and immensely powerful as well. Then we had the former Yonko, Kaido, and Big Mom, who were both monsters in their own right. One basically could turn into a dragon, and the other one could manipulate their soul to basically do whatever they want. Now we have Luffy, who's Literally one of the newest Yonkos to show up, and he's already monstrously strong. For him to beat Kaido is a feat in and of itself. All of these individuals, and not to mention, we had Whitebeard when he was alive, recognized as the strongest man in the world and the man closest to One Piece, due to just his own physical prowess and overall power. All the things that these people have in common is the fact that they are not just recognized as Yonkos for their status as a pirate, but also for their overwhelming strength. Every single individual I mentioned has overwhelming strength that could body the average person. Buggy is the average person who just has an absurd amount of luck on his side and a chop fruit that hasn't evolved beyond him using it to make himself look bigger to his own subordinates down below in Empty Bluffs. That's all. That's all he's done. He hasn't done anything with his own strength. And the fact that it really shows whenever he interacts with Crocodile and Mihawk, because a lot of these interactions wind up with him being beaten up severely by these individuals. Mind you, none of the crewmates ever wonder why Buggy's getting beat up so often. Because imagine, he gets beat up in secret. They don't see Buggy getting beat up, because if they saw him getting beaten up, that would probably cause some dissent amongst the crew members. I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but this is just things that you notice, is that Buggy, out of every single person in One Piece who has done something to evolve, he's done nothing except let his hair grow out. Even his own base regular crewmates haven't really changed it all that much. Moji, of all people, has gotten fat from just doing basically nothing of value. Buggy hasn't done anything of value except have his own delivery service. And since he's no longer a part of the Warlords, he's come up with he's a part of this whole cross-guild situation. But as far as Yonko, he's literally just a Yonko in name only. Whereas everyone got their title of Yonko because of their strength, Buggy got his because of luck and happenstance. So it's amazing how this man has managed to get this far in life, being one of the weakest people to ever show up in the entire story. Even Usopp has evolved more than Buggy has. Buggy really hasn't done anything except let his hair grow out. But going on, we find out that the flagship for the Cross Guild is done, and, well, the crew, due to their infatuation and idol worship of Buggy, they created patterned after him. Even though Crocodile and Mihawk are amongst the leaders of the Cross Guild, the crew members of Buggy's crew, feel it's better to have Chairman Buggy as the figurehead. And of course, this doesn't bode well for Buggy, because Mihawk and Crocodile don't play that type of nonsense. So when it gets back to the meeting room, Alvida, Moji, and Kabaji, they all know what's about to go down. And all they can do is just hear Buggy scream from outside of the door. They can't do anything because who could? So it cuts to Buggy as Crocodile is talking to Mihawk. You know what? Interesting that I read today's chapter. Today's volume that I read was volume 21 called Utopia. And going back to chapter 1082... Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. So chapter 193 of volume 21 is called Utopia, and volume 21 is called Utopia. Who knew that so many years later we would be getting Crocodile still talking about his Utopia that he wanted to start all the way back in Alabasta? Who knew that we would be still seeing that? So he talks about public opinion on the Cross Guild has been very positive. The Navy should be waking up to the threat we pose by now. The utopia we seek to build is a military nation strong enough to resist any power, and for that we need overwhelming strength, which is the same exact idea that he had and was going forth with during the whole Alabasta arc. You see, this is the reason why it's a good thing that I'm going through these old chapters all the way from the beginning again, because these moments still, because I didn't think about it. I didn't think about the implications of how he's trying to achieve, once again, the very thing he wanted to do back in Alabasta, even now, with the help of Buggy's, status as a Yonko. He's still trying to achieve that same utopia he was denied back in Alabasta. See, had I read the Alabasta arc beforehand and remembered it, I probably would have brought it up during my reaction. But since I didn't at the time, it was like, oh, okay. He wants to bring a utopia. But now that I know that he still has his mind set on creating a utopia of just pure military might that the world government can't go up against, he's still dead set on this idea. So it didn't dawn on me until just now, after reading today's volume. It's crazy how coincidental that is. In order to build that, we'll need massive wealth and power, right? Well, if you'll permit me to speak freely, kill me and be done with it if you like, but I gotta get this off my chest. You really call yourselves pirates chasing after these small-time goals? And Mihawk says, what's this, a last-ditch attempt at arguing back? Stop wasting your time with these lateral moves, boys. You've heard that what they're saying, haven't you? Red Hair is making his move. Both he and I rode on the Pirate King's ship, but neither of us were able to go to Laugh Tale with the others. Think back, when you were young, what did you want to be? I could see that Shanks had so much promise ahead of him that I gave up on my dreams. And then it cuts to the day of Gold Roger's death 24 years ago. Don't you remember what you said, Shanks, that you'd take your own ship to Laugh Tale one day? And then Shanks goes, I've changed my mind. For now, I don't feel like trying to get there. But I'll still be a pirate. And then it cuts to Buggy, who's thinking, you're not who I thought you were, Shanks. Aren't you going to be the king of the next generation? And at that moment, Buggy saw Shanks as wanting to be Shanks as the next king of the new king of the next generation. So even Buggy at the time could see that there was potential in Shanks. Come with me, Buggy. I'm not going to work under you, you idiot, you coward. I thought Captain Roger's wish was for you to follow in his footsteps. Don't tell me you've forgotten that you lost my treasure map. Well, I haven't forgiven you, so until the next time we meet, we're enemies. So, it just shows how petty Buggy is, carrying a grudge that many years later. But Shanks is actually on the move. Why after all these years? Well, whether by fate or accident, I'm on the same level as him now. In title only, but nowhere else. Clearly nowhere else. If you're getting beat up by Crocodile and Mihawk, who are not even Yonkos, who are just warlords, former warlords, just very strong pirates, you are not on Shanks' level. If you are getting beaten up, you are not. If you're getting beaten up, period. If you're getting beaten up, period, you are not on Shanks' level. So yeah, I'm on the same. Well, by fate or by accident, it was by accident. I'm on the same level as him now, so if he's gonna do it, then I want to be the king of the pirates. Sorry, someone already has that goal in sight. Power, wealth, we'll have it all. Let's go and take it. The greatest treasure the world has ever known. And then Crocodile slaps away Buggy going, they say that titles can create a false sense of superiority. I've never seen anyone this full of himself. Do you actually believe you can talk us into this? No plan, no preparation. Pirating is a business. Red hair, black beard, straw hat. You want us to fight all of them at once? No, you just have to beat them to the punch. That's the only rule with treasure. Finders keepers. Don't even start. Remember the passion that these words inspire. All pirates went out to sea in search of this. And then it cuts to a Den Mushi broadcasting everything that Buggy's saying. Isn't that right, folks? Stop it, Buggy. Tell me, what was the dream that took you out to sea? Chairman Buggy's kindling the light of our lost innocence. Just once again showing you. Just once again showing you that these dudes just hang on Buggy's every word. Guess we know where you stand on Shanks versus Mihawk. I feel like we'll truly never know the end result of Shanks versus Mihawk in the grand scheme of things. due to the fact that Mihawk doesn't see Shanks as a worthy rival anymore since he's missing an arm. But we've seen the strength of Shanks, and it's so strong it's capable of defeating not one but two of the worst generation in one swift stroke, and him almost killing them, or at least putting them in critical condition in one go. So it's kind of tricky to see where Shanks versus Mihawk would truly stand. Mind you, when I say, like, if you're getting hurt by regular pirates, then you're not Yonko level, I mean, neither Shanks nor Mihawk have been fully hurt by just, like, regular pirates. Like, I really need to speak to on Buggy's level, is that he says he's on the same level of Shanks, but he's getting beaten up by other pirates. And he can't do anything about it. It'd be different if you're a strong pirate and you're letting yourself getting beat up, and that's just for some other reason. It's one thing to get beaten up by pirates and you have the strength to defend yourself, but you chose not to. And it's another thing to be just weak and you can't do anything about it because you're weak. That's Buggy. He can't do anything about what people do to him because he's just that weak. 2 years and he's done absolutely nothing to make him any more of a significant threat. The only thing threatening on Buggy is his mouth. That's the only thing. The only thing threatening on him is just his mouth. Not even his Chop Chop powers, because we never see him use any of his Chop Chop powers, except for making himself look big with the big old giant tent bed sheet that he's just so keen on wearing all the time. And he doesn't even get around normally. He wears this big old cloak so that he can float above all of his other subordinates, but we rarely see Buggy in regular clothes. Walking around normally, we rarely see it. There's always something in my eye whenever I'm trying to do live streams for you guys. It always is. So it's like, he's just like I said, he's just an example of a person who's managed to get so much success, but none of the hard work to get there. Like, he didn't earn this stuff, it just plopped in his lap. Good to see you, Psycho. But Buggy is just crying out and yelling while everyone is able to hear this. Are your souls crying out for meaning, begging for a purpose, when your lives could be cut short at any moment? Don't be cowards, soft and satisfied with the status quo. Reach out for what you want most of all. Remember, I've got your backs. Let's go and take it. The One Piece is ours. And this whole speech that was meant to be for only Crocodile and Mihawk winds up getting blasted and broadcast across all of the empty bluffs, causing everyone under Buggy, because none of them are under Mihawk, because they just see Crocodile and Mihawk as Buggy's subordinates who joined with him willingly, not knowing that Buggy's the front man of all of their operations. Everyone just under Buggy just goes up in an uproar, which annoys both Crocodile and Mihawk. So literally, Buggy is the perfect example of wrong place, wrong time. Every single time. But then we get to the Kamabaka Queendom on the Grand Line, and we're introduced to the vice captains, the main captains. So we have the Revolutionary Army Vice Captain, Western Forces, Ushiano, of Morley, and who's Morley's subordinate. We have Revolutionary Army Vice Captain of the Eastern Forces, Ahiru, who is Bello Betty's subordinate. We have Revolutionary Army Vice Captain of the Southern Forces, Gambo, who is Lindbergh's subordinate. And then we have Revolutionary Army Vice Captain of the Northern Forces, Jiron, who is Karasu's subordinate. So it's cool that we got these individuals who follow under these very powerful captains. And it turns out that Sabo is alive and well. This is where the chapter where we get that confirmation that Sabo is alive. And he returns, and he has a whole bunch of people from the Lelouch Kingdom that also sailed with him, just showing that he did not perish in the massive explosion that took out the entire nation of Lelouch. But he also managed to get not only a ship, but also plenty of people who are on board there as well. And he says, this ship is from Lelouch, the kingdom that just vanished. I'll explain later. For now, these people need rest. And of course, it puts into perspective how well-informed the Revolutionary Army is due to the fact that they know that Lelouch is gone. They know it's gone. Like, Sabo wasn't there to tell him that Lelouch has been wiped off the map. Sabo didn't tell him that the entire nation was wiped off the map, but they know due to how far spread the network of the Revolutionary Army is. So they know that Lelouch is gone. Cross Guild was such a perfect scheme. Why'd Buggy have to ruin it? I wouldn't even call it Buggy's fault. I wouldn't even call it Buggy's fault that the Cross Guild is going in the direction that it's going in. Yo, D-Train, it's good to see you. We are currently going through 1082 of the manga that we got in May. It's not even, I wouldn't even say it's Buggy's fault that it got ruined. It's just that Buggy has a very big mouth. He has a very big mouth, and he has very bad spatial awareness, or social awareness of any degree. Mind you, all the things that happen to Buggy is because he either can't shut his mouth, can't mind his own business, or he's at the wrong place at the wrong time. Those are all the things that happen to Buggy, because nothing good that happens to him is because he did it, is because it was meant for him to it was meant for it to happen to him. It's always him being caught up in some situation that oddly works out for his social standing. I wouldn't say it works out for him, because him being beaten, constantly being beaten up by Crocodile and Mihawk, I wouldn't say that that's something that works out for him. But the situation tends to work out for his social status the vast majority of the time. Like you guys have said, he's a perfect character for this is a character who is known for failing upwards. So the Cross Guild is a good idea, but unfortunately, the only way it was really going to take off is if it had some actual financial backing and some actual manpower behind it, which unfortunately happened to be Buggy. You know, one of the most useless Yonkos in the entire... Well, one of the most useless pirates in the entire series. How only Oda could turn someone who's that useless, who was once possibly a threat at the beginning of the series, has turned into nothing more than just a gag character who is successful. A successful gag character. Because when people look at Buggy, they don't see success. Well, they do see success, but not in the way that you and I would get it. They see success by someone who basically doesn't do anything to earn that success. It just plops into his lap. And given the fact that Buggy, sometimes for the vast majority of the time, does not know what's going on for the success to land in his lap, all he can do is just be dumbfounded, but also go with it. Now, mind you, he has certain aspects like Caesar Clown. When success comes his way, he tends to go a little bit overboard without thinking about consequences, because he thinks like, oh, this is going well for me, I shouldn't have to worry. But like Caesar Clown did when he found out that he would eventually have to make good on his deal towards Big Mom, Buggy has that same type of mindset with him. And apparently, for his whole business to even get off the ground, he owed Crocodile, because remember, Crocodile made his way to the Cross Guild in order to get the money that Buggy owed him. So that's one reason why he's there. Mihawk is just there for the ride, because his home was going to get noisy with more and more members of the Navy going there. We got Buggy and King. The difference between Buggy and King is that King actually has the strength that allows him to be at the status that he's at. Buggy is just lucky. He doesn't have the strength. He has the status due to happenstance and hearsay and a word of mouth from others. That's it, but he lacks the strength to be at he actually lacks the strength to be at the position that he's at. But he's just lucky to be there. And the fact that his luck really hasn't run out, even after the Navy came after him, Crocodile just happened to show up and take out all the Navy that was coming for him, which allows Buggy to continue on. So it's just dumb luck that Buggy has managed to last this long. And for him to be recognized as a Yonko is all like, okay, Oda, okay. All right. You're over here making this useless character in the same status as Luffy, Shanks, and Blackbeard. And it's like, Ain't no way. Ain't no way. This dude ain't do nothing. If you put Buggy in the same room with Luffy, Shanks, and Blackbeard, only those three people are walking out. And Buggy's not included in that three. But given the way that Buggy's been written these past few months or so, he's just protected by a shield of luck. He's protected by plot luck. Because ain't no way you're going to go through all of these situations as Buggy the Clown and you are still alive? I'm just saying. But continuing on with the chapter, and we go back to Sabo because we really need to focus on the revolutionaries. We go back and Sabo is, dealing with everyone being glad that he's back and alive. Koala tries to kick him in the face because she was worried about him, but then she starts bawling over him because she knows he's fine. Then it cuts to Bello Betty, who's talking to the same citizens from the Lelouch Kingdom. Remember those same citizens that were dealing with Peachbeard or Pinkbeard, depending on your translation. These are the same citizens that, under the effects of Bello Betty's power, rose up and defended their entire town from these pirates. Mind you, this is a small part of the Lelouch Kingdom that wasn't able to get tribute, and therefore they weren't able to, remain under the protection of the world government. Watch Buggy accidentally become Pirate King. If that ever happened, that would be the most mind-blowing thing to ever happen in One Piece. But I honestly don't want it to happen. For all the success that Buggy's getting, him becoming the king, actually becoming the king of the pirates, would be the most mind-wrecking thing to ever see happen. Plus, given the fact that Luffy is also still in this story, that's just something that Luffy wouldn't allow. It would not stay that way. I can't assume to know what Oda would do when it comes to his characters and everything. Sorry, I gotta lower my mic. I can't assume to know what Oda's gonna do when it comes to his characters or anything. But making Buggy the accidental king of the pirates would be the most mind-blowing thing that Oda would do. But at the same time, I highly doubt that would be the end of the series and Buggy's just the king of the pirates, because there ain't no way. As many years as we heard Luffy say he's going to become the king of the pirates, it's like, ain't no way. It sounds like a complete subversion of expectations, but ain't no way. I doubt it. I stake my entire channel on it. I take that back, because you never know. And I don't want to lose my channel. Over me saying that. So I'm not going to stake my channel on it, but I'll stake something. But it won't be my only job. I can't do that because this is the only work that I have. This is literally my only paying job. But it'd be crazy if Oda had that happen. But I don't know. But going back to this, while everyone is having a conversation, the old citizens that met Bello Betty before are reuniting with her after all that time, and they all want to join the ranks of the Revolutionary Army. So, with Lelouch Kingdom being erased off the map by the world government, they basically just gave the revolutionaries an even greater amount of troops to join them. So whether the world government knows it or not, they pretty much just made situations even worse for themselves. Because not only do we have 8 other nations, well 7 now since one of them's been erased. Whether it's steaks or steaks, I love them. Oh, steak is good. Steak is... I haven't had steak in a while. Also, Horrorster, it's good to see you. But whether the world government knows this or not, they pretty much made the situation worse for themselves due to the fact that if they're destroying entire kingdoms, mind you, not every kingdom is going to have the luxury of having a revolutionary close by to help them escape. But if they destroy entire nations and there's just but one survivor, let alone an entire town or even nations full of people, it's only going to make the situations even worse for them. That's just how I feel about it. The world government, I feel, is far more desperate than they've ever been in the recent past. But we'll get more to the world government once we go through these chapters. So, Sabo sits with Dragon and Ivankov in a solitary room by themselves because no one else needs to know the information that Sabo is about to explain to everyone. And they continue going, I heard about what happened to Kuma. I'm sorry we wasted all of your hard work. No, I know this is harder for you two, because Sabo knows just how close Dragon, Kuma, and Ivankov are. They're basically the three people that started the Revolutionary Army. They're the ones who started the entire movement those many years ago. So they're all very close, even closer than anyone else on this entire army, save for Sabo, who they're very close to. Perhaps he was programmed with some directive to return to Marijwa at any moment. Can't we tell the captains about all this, Sabo? I'm afraid not. Listening in could put their lives in danger. What? This reverie was a truly wild affair. I'll tell you everything that actually happened in Sacred Marijwa. Now, the reason why this is significant is that information that comes from Marijwa is always world-breaking. It is always monumental. So us going to Marijwa, talking about Marijwa, or having a chapter that even references Marijwa is already significant. And we get two chapters that pretty much home in on those moments. So, to just go over the quick notes, T-Bone is revealed to have been killed and his death is reported in the newspaper. At some point after the Reverie, T-Bone was promoted to Vice Admiral. So the thing is, T-Bone was recently promoted to Vice Admiral. And then not too long after, he was killed. Sengoku and Sudo say the Marines need to neutralize the Cross Guild as soon as possible, due to the damages the group have already caused to the organization. They learn from Hina that Gart took sword to Hachinosu in order to rescue Kobe. Now, here's my thing. If Sengoku and Sudo already have the mindset of we need to take out the Cross Guild, a confrontation with the Navy is all but inevitable. Because there's no way the Navy is going to allow a group that is out there voluntarily hunting their members, specifically their vice admirals and captains and even their admirals, to persist. There's absolutely no way. It's only a matter of time. Akainu is going to get so fed up and mad that he's going to put forth the idea like, okay, we need to stamp out the Cross Guild right now. Because they're causing too much trouble for us here on the Navy side. We're losing soldiers. We don't have enough manpower to defend ourselves against the pirates. It's only a matter of time before the Navy decides to fully retaliate from the Cross Guild itself. And then it's just going to be yet another all-out war against the Navy and pirates. This time, it's another Yonko they're going to be going up against. Except this Yonko isn't going to be going to a certain location in order to rescue one of their members from execution. Bucky admits T-Bone's killer into the Cross Guild. The killer did so in order to obtain monetary support from T-Bone's bounty to feed his starving family. Cross Guild ship is revealed with Buggy's face as a figurehead created by his subordinates, much to the disgust of both Crocodile and Mihawk. Crocodile still plans to create a utopia a utopia of his own, with Mihawk showing support to the idea. So Mihawk is like along for the ride, but he also shows support for the whole idea that Crocodile's going after. And like I said, this is still Crocodile trying to create that utopia he once tried to do all the way in Alabasta. Good luck with that. Remember the Marines sent to capture Mihawk after the Reverie? Yeah, we've never seen them again. There's no word on where they were. If it was up to Akainu, he'd go and do it himself, but unfortunately, he's now seeing the downsides of being Fleet Admiral. Exactly, Halster. And I've mentioned this many times, both during my reactions and during my reflections, is that Akainu really saw the position as a way for him to exercise absolute justice over all that he surveys against every single pirate. But now that he's in the position of Fleet Admiral, this man has never been able to leave Navy headquarters at all. Never been able to do anything, always dealing with news about how pirates this, pirates that, we lost a member, this is happening towards the world government, we're losing face, Fujitora's bowing in front of people, making the admirals look bad, making the Marines look bad, all these different bad news for Akainu, and he's barely been an admiral for more than half a year. Because I feel like a lot of time has passed since the time skip started, all the way to where it is now, like a couple of months. I want to say, we've been in the time skip for more than 10 years. We've been in this time skip for more than 10 years. But in real time, but I honestly feel like only a couple of months have passed since the time skip has started. So after all this time, Akainu has had some of the worst luck. Sengoku had a much better run of the Marines when he was Fleet Admiral. Sure, you had some moments that had him take pause, but it was never so catastrophic to the point where it's like every bit of news that came to him was bad news. And that's all. And Akainu is already getting fed up. Like, he really is already getting fed up with it. Because he says, like, well, at one point, we are going to take out all these pirates and then burn them all. Like, he has that mindset, but he just can't do anything right now because he still needs permission. So Akainu is pretty much left sitting on his hands with no way of exercising his control as Fleet Admiral over basically anything at all. So all that whole fight he got into with Kuzan over being the Fleet Admiral, I bet he thought that he was going to have an easier time being able to stamp out pirates, and he hasn't been able to stamp out some pirates who have been a great thorn in his side ever since he's met them. Mainly, literally every other pirate he's come across, at least the ones with names, because they're still alive. Well, some of them have statuses who are currently unknown, but you get what I mean. You get what I mean. I feel like Akainu has had some of the worst time trying to run the Marines and direct them than Sengoku did. Sengoku's an inspector, but he's having a far easier time. This dude gets to eat food wherever he goes and chill out in his Hawaiian shirt and some shorts and some sandals. He's chilling. He's enjoying his retirement. He's just chilling. Where Akainu is all like, this is so much stress. This is literally him. But he asked for it. You wanted this position so much you were willing to go to a hand-to-hand death battle against your former fellow admiral that you wanted this position so much. Now you're stuck with it. And he hasn't... Akainu, ever since he became the Fleet Admiral of the Navy, has not had an advantage at a single moment since he's been the Fleet Admiral. Ironically, he's just one of the biggest lapdogs compared to what he thought initially about bringing upon absolute justice with nothing holding him back. But here he is, where he has to wait on the Gorosei to give him permission to do anything. He literally thought that he was going to be able to exercise his absolute justice and do whatever he wants to stamp out pirates and basically just burn all pirates from the world. He hasn't been able to even for a fraction be able to do that because he's stuck having to follow the Gorosei. It's even in his name, Red Dog. Yeah, you're right. It's even in his name. Ever since he became Fleet Admiral, he hasn't been able to do what he wants since he's been in that position. Sure, you got people out there doing what they want to do. Fujitora, Ryokugyu, all of them, they do what they want, but it never has given the Navy an advantage. Think about it. The Navy has been very prevalent in the time skip, but they haven't had a moment where you can truly say that the Navy has a notch on a list of the wins that they've had. Aside from the Seraphim. And even then, that's still a matter that's going on Egghead, which we still haven't been back to. It feels like it's been over a month since we've been on Egghead. But that's just a side thing. The Navy as a whole really hasn't had like a big major win for themselves since the death of Whitebeard and Ace. That's how long it's been since the Navy has had a win. Since the Marineford War. That was it. Now it's just them fumbling and struggling to keep things together. The world is turning upside down. 2 Yonkos have been defeated. The powers that be are just like doing whatever, destroying entire kingdoms. And everyone on the Navy side has to just deal with it. That's where the Navy is right now. Sad, isn't it? The Navy is in no better place it was back when Sengoku was in charge. It's probably even in worse state because Akainu's in charge. Because he has less control. But going back to this, Crocodile still plans to create a utopia of his own with Mihawk showing support to the idea. Buggy has a flashback of him and Shanks falling out after Roger's execution. Buggy believed that Shanks was naturally going to succeed Roger, but Shanks stated he was not yet ready, and this is in parentheses, ready to do so, much to Buggy's surprise. Buggy declares to his followers that they will join the race for the One Piece as he too desires to be Pirate King. The deputy commanders of the Revolutionary Army, sans Inazuma, are all introduced because Inazuma is not there. We haven't seen Inazuma in a long time. Sabo returns to Moiro Island. Sabo arrives with Lelouch Kingdom residents, including Moda, who are now integrated into the Revolutionary Army. And Moda is the girl who was basically the Milk Maiden. She's basically the Milk Maiden that was there when... Oh, interesting. Milk Maiden from the Lelouch Kingdom during his cover story. Oh, okay. Following the destruction of her homeland, Moda was enlisted to the Revolutionary Army. But yeah, Moda was there with Peachbeard. And it shows that she's the one that beat Peachbeard with only one hit with a stick. Moda is not an experienced fighter, but after having her latent power awakened by Betty's Kobu Kobu no Mi, Moda was able to defeat Peachbeard, a pirate captain with a bounty of 52 million, with only one hit with a stick. Mind you, Moda is a Milk Maiden. Moda is a Milk Maiden, and she beat a pirate captain with 52 million on his bounty. Mind you, for her, that's significant. For us, we've seen far worse. But yeah, Moto's alive, who are now integrated into the Revolutionary Army. It is revealed that Sabo had already left Lelouch when it was destroyed. Sabo learns about Kuma, and Dragon suspects Kuma was programmed to eventually return to Marijois. Sabo starts a private meeting with Dragon and Ivankov to reveal what he truly witnessed at the Reverie. So this was a pretty good chapter. I enjoyed the chapter because it showed more members of the Revolutionary Army, but it also showed that things are changing in terms of people's goals for this story. Because not only do we have the events that are going on with Shanks going to claim the One Piece for reasons unknown, we don't know the true objective of Shanks for the One Piece, but we have Buggy who says he wants to go after the One Piece as well. So a lot of these big names are going to come to a head as they go after the One Piece. Remember, this is still a race for the throne that Law mentioned way back in Dressrosa, I think. This was like the race for the throne is beginning or continuing. I'll remember once I go through those volumes as well. Someone will remind me. But we're at a state right now where more and more characters are having the thought of the One Piece in mind. Mind you, Kaido and Big Mom had that thought in their minds, but they're currently, their status is currently unknown. I mean, I don't know how much more unknown you can be, being in lava and then being caught up in a gigantic undersea volcanic explosion. Who knows whether they're fine or who knows if they're just gone from the story. Like I said, I don't know. But more and more eyes are being pointed towards the One Piece itself, which means that at some point, the lines and paths of these individuals are going to cross once more. Because if they're all vying for the One Piece, at some moment they're going to meet up. But that's the end of chapter 1082. Let's move on to chapter 1083, which is titled The Truth of That Day. And in this chapter, we find out a little bit more that happened on Marijois. And Sabo basically says that he completed all of his objectives. I managed to complete all of my objectives. Broadly speaking, I had 3. First, to destroy the symbol of the Celestial Dragons in a declaration of war, which is basically the symbol that you see on the back of slaves that has been tattooed and burned onto them. Second, to free as many slaves as I possibly could and take back Kuma. And third, to venture into the land of the gods and destroy their food stockpile, which means that Sabo was able to do basically everything. Destroy the symbol of the Celestial Dragons, declaring war, free as many slaves as he could, and Kuma, and destroy their food stockpile to put a major dampen on the things that were happening in Marijois. You certainly drew the world's attention, and thanks to the fact that you kept a large part of the Navy's strength occupied, our influence in a dozen countries around the world sparked the people to take up arms, ending in 8 successful revolutions. But don't forget, out of those 8 countries, one was Lelusian, which vanished mysteriously without a trace. Now, it just shows here that as much information that the Revolutionary Army has, they still don't know how the country of Lelusia was completely eradicated. They know it's gone. They know it's missing, but they still don't know how. So the network of revolutionaries is widespread, but not enough to know whatever object of power the world government is using to wipe off locations off the map. And I got to bring this up again. Since the world government clearly has something that can just basically nuke an entire country and wipe it out off of the map completely, like make it so that it was never there in the first place. It makes you wonder just how many more countries, how many more islands used to exist in the world before the world government decided that country never existed at all. Like, the Sea of One Piece is big and vast, but who knows how many countries and how many islands used to actually be in the map before they were no longer considered to be existing, no longer considered to be islands that existed at all. So it makes you wonder just how many countries and how many nations have been completely wiped off the map because of the world government. And I bring back this fact, the fact that Lelusia was one of the 8 nations that rebelled against the world government. How long is it going to be before those nations suffer the same fate as Lelusia? Because there's no way the world government is going to look at this one country of Lelusia and say, like, this will be an example. But at the same time, it never existed at all. So now we need to stamp out the other 7 nations that have rebelled against us, because we can't have rebellion in this world. How much longer is it going to be before those countries start to before they go under the crosshairs of the world government and they wind up no longer existing like Lelusia did? It's only a matter of time. Because the world government likes to be thorough when it wants to eradicate upstarts that could threaten its rule. And it's already capable of showing that it can do that to Lelusia. So it makes you wonder just how much borrowed time these other nations are having. How much borrowed time? How much longer are these nations living on borrowed time? That's a better way to put it. They won't write about it in the papers, but the 7 countries now under new leadership have cut off all heavenly tribute to the government and stopped exporting natural resources. So those entire countries were sending money to the world government, as part of tribute, so they could be counted as nations affiliated with the world government. Since they rebelled, no money's being sent towards the celestial dragons, and the world government won't be getting any more resources from those 7 still available nations. God Valley? Exactly. We know God Valley existed, but it doesn't exist now. So, it stands to reason that whatever object they used to destroy Lelusia was in fact the same thing to take out God Valley, so that even if people were to question about God Valley, they'd never be able to go to that location because it never existed at all. It makes me wonder, the world government knows the Revolutionary Army is at Kamabaka Queendom. Surely with their information network, why not use the laser there to wipe out that major base? They don't know they're there. They don't know that the Revolutionary Army is there. Now, mind you, the Revolutionary Army has a widespread network, but they tend to be extremely careful with how they move. Because otherwise, they would have assaulted that entire nation. They would have assaulted the Kamabaka Queendom before Sabo even got there. Before Kuma even left. They would have taken that whole place. Now, mind you, they probably would have had Kuma go back to the Celestial Dragons, because the Celestial Dragons see Kuma as their property. So the world government probably wouldn't want to get on their bad side. No, they do. They do. Chapter 1060? Wait, hold up. They do? I missed that. I must have missed that. Dang it, I was not supposed to hit that button. Hold on, let me go to 1060. I'd be forgetting sometimes. Thank you, Ogata-san. Your memory for certain events tends to be a lot better than mine. Hold on. Chapter 1060 is... All right, let's see. There's no white transponder snail jamming. It's an emergency call then. He'll hang up soon. Oh, they do know. They do know. Message from Flame. Okay, it's right here. Pages 10 and 11. They know they're there. They know the call was going to the Kamabaka Queendom. The fact that they haven't done anything yet, it makes you wonder. Thank you, Ogata-san. They do know. They do know. Because right here, it has Navy HQ in the New World, message from Flame Emperor Sabo to the Kamabaka Queendom. Where is he? Trace his signal. Now, mind you, the Gorosei are trying to find out where Sabo is. They're not worried about the Kamabaka Queendom, but they do know that the call was going to the Kamabaka Queendom. So, if they were to put two and two together, they would figure out that Sabo was sending messages to someone at the Kamabaka Queendom, but they haven't done anything about it yet. So, the world government and the Navy knows that calls from Sabo went to the Kamabaka Queendom. It just kind of makes you wonder, okay, if they know the calls were going to this because they know of the Kamabaka Queendom. They know the place. But it makes you wonder, how long is it going to be before they try to do something against that queendom as well, due to the fact that if Sabo is calling towards that place, then they would put into their minds, Sabo's one of the Revolutionary Army members, and he's calling to this entire nation, telling people about this very sensitive information. Could this be a location where some revolutionaries are hiding? Could this be where Dragon is? So it actually puts in the crosshairs the Kamabaka Queendom when you think about it. But they just haven't done anything against the nation as a whole, which is interesting. So going back to this, they continue saying like they won't write about it in the papers, but the 7 countries now under new leadership have cut off all heavenly tribute to the government and stopped exporting natural resources. All around the world, our revolutionaries are attacking the government's cargo ships, cutting off vital supply lines to Marijwa. They like to call Marijwa an impenetrable fortress because of its great elevation. But they have no defense against a lack of food. Let's see how you like living without money in the bank or dinner on the table. Hee-ha! And then it cuts to Sabo going, that'll hit him hard, won't it? And Dragon continues, almost certainly. We haven't cut off all of their supply lines, but they're surely starting to feel the pain in the capital by now. Of course, these are not the kind of people to stay quiet under duress. If they mobilize the Holy Knights, that's where the fighting will begin. Now, mind you, we spoke about this before, but the Holy Knights are completely different from the Royal Knights that protects the regular Celestial Dragons. The Royal Knights are basically like the elites of Marijwa. They're not Celestial Dragons themselves, but they are considered like the big wigs when it comes to solving disputes when it comes to matters that happens in Marijwa. And I would surmise that these Holy Knights... Sorry, there's a lot of barking going on in the background. He's a very vocal dog. But when it comes to the Holy Knights, who are completely different, or they're called the Holy Knights. Official English name is Holy Knights, but they're also known as God's Knights. Their involvement is so significant that even Dragon says, like, if they got involved, that's when the real fighting will begin. Now, mind you, a lot of us thought that them just issuing a declaration of war towards the Celestial Dragons would be that big moment where it's all like, okay, they're going to be fighting the Celestial Dragons. But these dudes are basically the elite fighting unit for the Celestial Dragons themselves. You've probably heard this a million times, but your knowledge of what happens in what chapters is truly amazing, Ogata-san. Yeah, he does. Ogata-san is great at remembering details that I forget. The only person I know of that is able to recall these things very quickly are, when it comes to One Piece chapters, is Roger's Base and Tekking. So Ogata-san is very crucial, and I thank Ogata. Thank you, Ogata, for always being here to remind me of certain things. But the thing about the Holy Knights is that the God's Knights number at least 9 people. While the present power collectively held by the group is unknown, according to Sakazuki, their mere intervention in affairs to do with Marie-Joie is troublesome for the Marines. In particular, the God's Knights seem to hold jurisdiction over matters pertaining to disagreements between world nobles. Additionally, Monkey D. Dragon and Emporio Ivankov have speculated that the God's Knights may be mobilized in response to the Revolutionary Army's harmful exploits against the world government, namely attacking its capital, declaring war, and destroying supply carriers to Marie-Joie. And that the Knights may specifically go after Sabo due to the latter being a new symbol of hope for uprising nations. This, according to Dragon, could mark the beginning of the real battle awaiting the revolutionaries, thus hinting at the Knights' possible power. So, if Dragon is saying like, hey, this may be kind of serious. This may be kind of serious if they get involved. Yo, what's going on, Ozzy? Also, Ozzy also has a good memory when it comes to One Piece as well. Tekking's on a whole nother level. Yeah, Tekking is basically a walking encyclopedia of One Piece knowledge that he never misses out on. I hope to have plenty of One Piece knowledge, so that way I can go through all these chapters and I can recall these different things as well to a good enough degree. But yeah, good to see you, Ozzy. We are going through chapters 1083. But Dragon says if they mobilize the Holy Knights, that's where the fighting will begin. And then it cuts back to Ivankov. Sabo, I mean Flame Emperor Boy, you're the one they'll be after most of all. Seeing, still not feeling that name. Regardless of the truth behind it, the assassination of King Cobra has turned you into a hero in the people's eyes. From the perspective of the rebellious, anyone affiliated with the world government is an enemy. Of course, there are many wicked kings who oppress their people, but there are also wise and just kings who are capable rulers, such as King Cobra and King Rikuldold III. They're very good examples. And King Neptune as well. King Cobra of Alabasta was known far and wide as a noble leader, a man of great character, but news does not always spread accurately. Well, I'm sorry to King Cobra, but this way suits me just fine. Anything that gets the flames of revolution burning. And then it cuts to him drinking. I like that attitude. Let's hear your story then. And because it shows a newspaper that shows supposedly Sabo, standing over the body of King Cobra. Tell us the truth behind this article. We tearfully begged and pleaded, searching for a reason for you to do this. We all want to believe in you. And Sabo's just looking at the paper, perplexed. And that's when we cut to over 1 month earlier, Land of the Gods, Sacred Marie-Joie, during the Reverie. And beyond the walls, we see a massive fire erupted in the middle of the city. And this is pretty much when the food storage was destroyed by Sabo. He basically just set fire to their food supply, while different celestial dragons go running through the streets in terror. And they go screaming for their agents to do something, because, every single celestial dragon is incapable of doing things on their own, so they have their own cronies doing things for them. 4 revolutionary captains have been sighted, Blast it all, they're not satisfied just by desecrating the symbol of our nobility. They got to take out our gourmet food too. It's ugly jealousy from nameless peasants. Catch them all and strike off their heads. And when that's done, put our security forces to the sword next. They deserve death for letting this happen to us. So it just shows you we just see, especially dealing with One Piece geography. Tekking is something else. The only other person I can think of who's just as knowledgeable is King Recon. Yeah, he's knowledgeable as well. I think I might be the one who does the voices the most when it comes to reactioneers, because I go out of my way to do voices. But then again, the ones that I tend to think of most of all is Roger Base, King of Lightning, Tekking, Brago, JD Legend, and King Recon as well. But yeah, they're so entitled. They're so incredibly entitled. Like, when you find out who did this and deal with it, kill our security force because they allowed this to happen. Can you imagine a rich person saying, kill whoever's involved with this, and then kill yourself because you allowed it to happen? And since they're celestial dragons, they're basically saying, their word is law. It sucks, I know it does, but their word is law, and they expect it to be followed. Now, mind you, the only real advantage they have is their lineage. That's it. None of them have the power to do anything under their own power in order to exercise these commands. They have to rely on other people to do it, which means that it makes you think that if they didn't have their subordinates with them, they truly wouldn't be able to exercise and flex their status as, gods to everyone else, because everyone else just follows them under fear of being killed by them. But mind you, the only people that are capable of killing the people who oppose the Celestial Dragons is not the Celestial Dragons themselves, but the people that choose to follow them. So imagine what would happen if the people that followed the Celestial Dragons chose not to follow them anymore and decided to disobey their orders. The Celestial Dragons can't do anything. They'll say like, oh, I'll have you killed, but that doesn't matter if that subordinate kills you when you think about it. They don't really think that far ahead. They just think that I'm a god, and whatever I say, you have to do. And if I say someone's going to kill you, then that means it's going to happen. Which is the reason why it's just the fear that they instill just from their status. Not really the fear that they instill from their power, because the only power they have is their lineage. They don't actually have any actual physical power. They're incapable of following through physically what they want to happen to people. They expect other people to do it. That's how lazy they are. They can't even be bothered to see executions up to their end. Some of them will use a gun, but mind you, it's a gun. It's a cheap way to do it, and a lazy way to do it. Guns are too quick. But it's just crazy how everyone just follows these celestial dragons simply because they're told to. They never think, and the thing is, a lot of individuals who follow the celestial dragons knows how horrible they are. Others are just used to it, and they just go along with it for reasons unknown, because I highly doubt the people who are following celestial dragons are paid handsomely. I'm pretty sure the celestial dragons looks at the people who serve them and says like, you should be serving me because I'm a god and that's all the payment you need. That sounds like something that they would do, but it's gotta be crazy. It's gotta be crazy how no one in their mind has ever thought what would happen. What would happen if I killed this celestial dragon right here, right now? Sure, I could be hunted for the rest of my life, but what if the people around me agreed with my decision? Can you imagine just how scandalous it would be if a celestial dragon's very own servants all turned against them and they all volunteered to just, keep that information quiet, and then they all just left? See, when we see celestial dragons, we see disgusting, inhuman beings who see themselves as higher than humans, but they're really, in every sense of the word, worse than trash. It's crazy how much power they have to exercise, but it's merely just because they're descended from people who created the world government. That's it. They don't have any power except from word of mouth of their own lineage, and that's it. And they're so sure that their word is law that anyone who defies them is the most offensive thing that they've ever seen. Kneel before me. No. Murder him, his whole family, and this entire town for them housing this criminal for disobeying my orders. That's how extreme they are. They're so fat and slothfully over their own gluttony for power and their own status that they're willing to go overboard. Oh, this person offended me, just kill them all. I mean, Doflamingo was the same way. Even after he stopped being a celestial dragon because his father left them, he still saw everyone as beneath him and thought like, this person isn't listening to me. Give me a gun so I can kill this person for not listening to me. It's crazy. Celestial dragons are the reason why there are revolutions going on around the world. Kind of like the real world. Yeah. Hey, Kyushu, don't rush it. Your One Piece knowledge is slowly getting there. Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. But I don't expect myself to be a walking encyclopedia on Tekking's level for quite some time. It's getting there, but it's not there yet. But going back to this chapter, we got the Celestial Dragon saying like, and when that's done, catch them all and strike off their heads, meaning the people who caused their food supply to explode. And when that's done, put our security forces to the sword necks. They deserve death for letting this happen to us. And then, as it cuts to Celestial Dragons leaving the area, it cuts to one that's basically beating a pirate slave that's transporting it around, going, I told you to pull faster, you lazy mutt. What if something were to happen to me? Enough, I'll walk on my own. Consider yourself terminated, scum. And before the Celestial Dragon can even shoot this one pirate, Karasu comes flying in and takes the Celestial Dragon's gun. My gun! Who did that? Karasu. And then it cuts to a crow flying to this pirate saying like, run into town to the east. And this is Karasu letting everyone know that, hey, this is where you're going to be able to get out and get safe. Then Karasu is gunned down, and we then find out that Karasu is the user of the Soot fruit. Namely, it's a Logia type. He's a Logia type user. Now, for a while, Karasu, who's the captain of the northern forces of the Revolutionary Army, for a while now, a lot of us wondered whether or not he was a Paramecia user or a Logia user, but we get the confirmation today where he's basically can turn into soot. Now, the thing that makes Karasu the most unique Logia user that we've seen thus far is the fact that when he uses his powers, he's able to use them completely detached from his body. Whereas we've seen different types of Logia users, they basically use their powers as an extension of their bodies, such as, extending attacks or enlarging their bodies, or for extended periods of time, changing the entire climate of an entire island. But never have we seen a Logia user create something that they can still talk to and still use as if it's an extension of their body when it's detached from them. So one example is Karasu using a move called Karasut that allows him to turn his soot powers into a crow that he can still speak through, but send it into different directions, which is something you really don't see in Logia-type Devil Fruit users. You usually, like, for example, the first ones that pop into my mind are the three admirals. The three people that one of them used to be an admiral. Akainu, Kizaru, and Kuzan. They all have powers that can be extended from their bodies, but they never use it in a way where it becomes its own tangible, active element that allows them to keep controlling it. Like you've never seen Kuzan create like a frozen bird or whatever out of his own attacks, and then he just sends it flying, and then it does its own thing. It can talk to people. You never seen that. Akainu has Inugami Goren, which is basically a big old attack that is just the head of a dog, but we've never seen him detach his lava from him and it still operate like lava detached from him. Kizaru, we've never seen him do anything with his powers except create blades of light, shots of light, or explosions. We've never seen him detach the light from him and it be something that still functions on its own detached from him. And then we have other Logia users, such as Caesar, such as Smoker, there's such as Crocodile. There's so many Logia users in One Piece, but but none of them have used their powers so versatile, in such a versatile way as Karasu does. So, like I said, when I saw that, it just stuck in my head. It's just like, wow, you could really do a lot of various things with this type of power if you truly tried. Like, it took us getting to a Soot Man for us to see, like, hey, Logia powers can be for more than just creating elements and then just using them as attacks. They could have so many applications for their use. I'm just saying. Let me read what Holster said. I really hope we get the death of the Celestial Dragon as a major news article in the story, as like if Sai and Leo actually went and killed Charlos. They probably won't, but imagine. I would feel like a Celestial Dragon dying would be one of the most significant things to ever happen in One Piece, because they've always been described as untouchable and no one can ever touch them. It's rare to see a Celestial Dragon get hurt. About the only Celestial Dragon we see get hurt often is Charlos. First, by Luffy. Secondly, by Miasgard. And then lastly, and recently, by Sai and Leo. But we've never heard of a Celestial Dragon dying. Because think about it. If you hear a Celestial Dragon dying, then that puts into mind that Celestial Dragons can die. Period. And if they can die, they can be killed. And if they can be killed, they're not someone that should be feared. You see how that line of thought can go? That's just one aspect of it. If a Celestial Dragon can die, then that means they can be hurt. And if they can be hurt, they can be killed. And if they can be killed, then that means the world can be rid of them. It's that type of thought process that can give way to revolutions, when you think about it. But we'll continue to talk more about the Revolutionary Army and everything else. So Karasu uses his Devil Fruit power to go up against the agents of the Celestial Dragons, using numerous new powers. Then we have Lindbergh, who's firing on the chains of different slaves, causing them to go and leave and get out. Then we cut to Lindbergh, captain of the Southern Forces Revolutionary Army, and someone is clashing with one another. And it turns out that Karasu goes from defending this one pirate and dealing with the Celestial Dragon and their agents to clashing with Fujitora. And Fujitora, using his superior swordsmanship, cuts through all of the attacks for Karasu. And then later on, it shows that Morley is defending themselves from Ryokugyu, who's grown into his ginormous tree form. And mind you, since Morley's Devil Fruit power allows Morley to basically reshape the topography of the land wherever they are, this clash between Ryokugyu and Morley results in the entire landscape just being all topsy-turvied and then just turned into different sizes and places. It just turns the entire battlefield into just one big mess. Therefore, they are not gods. Exactly. If a Celestial Dragon can die, if a Celestial Dragon can be killed, if a Celestial Dragon can be hurt, if a Celestial Dragon can be harmed, then they are not gods. Of course, that sort of mindset doesn't really settle down into people, because the reason why this sort of mindset doesn't settle into people too much is because they think about the consequences of what happened to the Celestial Dragon and what it could mean. People focus too much on the consequences of killing a Celestial Dragon rather than the benefits. If you kill a Celestial Dragon, that's one less person who's exercising their need for superiority and ruling the lives of everyone that is just even remotely near them. Everyone is just scared of the consequences. Oh no, they're going to call an admiral. Oh no, they're going to call a buster call. Oh no, this. Oh no, that. This is the mindset of so many people who know the Celestial Dragons because they've heard or seen it before. That's what keeps people from doing anything against the Celestial Dragons. Fear of death. Because harming a Celestial Dragon is basically just ushering that in. But Ryokugyu is clashing with Morley going, ew, why is this boy so angry all the time? And then it cuts to Ryokugyu going, because you're wrecking the city, obviously. Where did your leader go? Why are you trying to violate... and then it cuts to Morley going, why are you trying to violate my privacy, ya perv? And then people are getting tossed aside because the entire area is being shifted and moved around because of Morley's Devil Fruit power. And it cuts to a Celestial Dragon going, you'll be put to death if anyone gets hurt, Ryokugyu. And then it cuts to Ryokugyu going, how do you expect me to do my job? Get out of here! Get out of here, man! Now, mind you, Ryokugyu is not audibly saying these things. He's thinking this in his mind. Like, the Celestial Dragon says, you'll be put to death if anyone gets hurt. And my thing is, the Celestial Dragon doesn't realize that if you're clashing with a giant, there's going to be collateral damage. If not to the not just to people, but to the areas as well. And the Celestial Dragons expects Aramaki not to cause any harm or if anyone gets hurt at all. Mind you, while this is happening, numerous Celestial Dragons are getting tossed around as the landscape is shifting and rising and dipping and all these different things. And this one Celestial Dragon is literally saying, if any of us get hurt, you'll be put to death. And Ryokugyu's all like, how do you expect me to do my job? There's going to be bumps and bumps and bruises. Not screwses, but bumps and bruises. So the Celestial Dragons are basically making it impossible for Ryokugyu to do his job. Like, they're just sticking around saying, like, if any of us gets hurt, you'll be put to death. And he's just like, I can't do my job if you're here. Go somewhere. But he can't audibly say that because that could be seen as an act of defiance against the dragons. Yet they can get knocked out by Conqueror's Haki. Yeah, because they're weak. They have weak wills. I feel bad for the admirals. I feel like they rarely get put in situations where they can excel. They're pretty much called in to clean up messes, not really be in a situation where they can just show how superior they are and why they're seen as one of the great three powers of the world. Well, you can count it two as now. I feel like the best example the admirals had fighting all together was during the Marineford War, and that was about the last time the admirals had a moment where they could actually flex. Now it's like we're literally left waiting, being told what to do. So continuing going forward, we have Fujitora, who starts using his power, and Ryokugyu is all like, Fujitora, what are you doing? I'm dropping a meteor. No, you idiot! Anything but that! Because if Fujitora drops a meteor in the area, then that could cause some of the Celestial Dragons to get hurt, which could cause Ryokugyu to be, put to death because some of them got hurt. Because, Celestial Dragons have such absurdly high standards. Then it cuts to individuals who are watching all this stuff happen outside of the gates. Two admirals. If this weren't the land of the gods, they could wipe the map clean between the two of them. And it turns out that we see the rest of CP9, who are now fully recognized as CP0 agents. Jabra, Bluno, Caulifla, Fukuro, and Kumadori, who are all seen there just watching all these events happen outside of the main city of Marijua. They're all just standing there watching everything going on. This also marks our first appearance of seeing all of the former CP9 agents since the events of Enies Lobby and the cover story where it showed them what they were doing after the events of Enies Lobby. This is the first time we see them canonically in the pages themselves. Yo, the Kratos! What's going on? We're going through chapters 1083 of One Piece as we, talk about it and see all the different things that are happening. And this is why Garp refuses to be an admiral. Not only that, but because it's like the Celestial Dragons are difficult to deal with. And also because if Garp ever became an admiral, he would have less freedom to do what he wants. Which is why Garp is okay being a vice admiral. but due to his strength, he's also incredibly strong, so he can do whatever he wants if he wanted to. The only thing you can think of as recently is Green Bull on Sphinx Island, where he is not held back in one regard or another. Yeah, but we didn't see that. We just got told what happened. We just got told Ryokugyu brought in Edward Weevil and took him to jail. That's it. We were told, but we never got a full altercation to see just how strong Ryokugyu was against Edward Weevil. We just got told that Ryokugyu came and got him. But we never saw that. So there's that. And that their rule could be completely overruled it could be completely overruled by something like that. You're right, Psycho. You're right. But going through this chapter, it cuts to all these members. It cuts to almost all these members, because the only person who's missing from the group that's attacking the revolutionaries is Bello Betty. She's not here. The only person that's missing from this group of the revolutionaries attacking Marie-Joie is Bello Betty. She's not here. Morley's here, Lindbergh's here, Karasu is here, but Bello Betty is not. Then it cuts to Karasu speaking to Sabo as he's making his way in. For a quick second there, it dropped me. Hopefully it didn't cut off anything. Hopefully that didn't cut anything off for you guys. All good? All good? All right, cool. As long as nothing got cut off. So continuing on, Sabo's already inside of basically Pangaea Castle. And we see Sabo, Chief of Staff of the Revolutionary Army, because they got to give his title. And Mukuma's moved to Pangaea Castle too. I saw him with St. Roswald and his son Charlos. I always forget Charlos's father's name. I'm sure they're plotting revenge for what happened in the Mingling Court earlier. Because in the Mingling Court, Miasgard slapped Charlos in the face for him trying to take Shirahoshi. And then it cuts to Charlos going, he's probably hasn't given up on Princess Shirahoshi yet. We'll never let him use Kuma like that. Of course we won't. Morley, get ready. You got it. And then it cuts to Jewelry Bonnie, who's moving through the environment as well, moving through the castle as well. Then it cuts to Vivi in the past, who was speaking to Lucci, going, will you leave me alone? I'm going to ask Vice Admiral Garp for help, but we are here to protect you. Well, it certainly didn't look that way with Shirahoshi back there. You're not stupid. You know they'll go after her again. And Lucci can't really say anything because she's right. But Lucci is not going to do anything simply because he is a person that sees the Celestial Dragon's right to rule as right. He's the one who rebelled. He's the one who fought against those who tried to save Shirahoshi, saying like the words, they're gods, their words are absolute. Of course he's not going to help, because he sides with the Celestial Dragons. He's that deep into the whole justice system that he's that deep that he voluntarily sees the Celestial Dragon's word as law without question. That's just how adamant he is. That's just how serious he is. I'm surprised Lucci managed to keep his mouth shut. Seriously, she said that, well, it certainly didn't look that way with Shirahoshi back there. You're not stupid. And Lucci can't say anything because he knows she's right. You know they'll go after her again. And then it cuts to King Cobra in front of the doors before the Godosei. Only King Cobra is permitted an audience with the five elders. And both Chaka and Pell, you know, the steadfast guards of King Cobra himself, are standing there going like, but, Chaka, Pell, this will not take long, but I don't want you waiting around getting bored. Go and stand watch over Vivi instead. I can't help but worry over that tomboy daughter of mine, as it shows Cobra preparing to meet with the five elders. So, going through this, it showed more of the aftermath effects of the Revolutionary Army's invasion on Marie-Joie. So, let's go over the notes really quickly. Lucci's a company man. He's not only a company man, but he's a company man that will do whatever it takes to get promoted. Like, you ever had that one kid in school that doesn't mind tattling on everyone because he wants to get in good with the teacher or because he has a really very big mouth? I've encountered people like that in my past as a kid, but he's one of them. He's one of them that will do whatever it is necessary to not only keep his position, but also he's not. And the thing is, he doesn't see him. He's not the type to go after position, but he's confident in his own strength to keep that position. And he's also a lapdog, just like all the other Marines, especially the ones that believe in absolute justice. He believes in dark justice, but he still believes that the will of the world government is the will of all. So that dictates his actions. Who was that rat character in Recess? Randall. Randall with Miss Fenster. I remember it because I've met a couple of people that were just like Randall. but yeah, that was Randall. Lucci, I wouldn't put on the same level as Randall, because Randall's just basically a tattletale. He's a school stool pigeon. But Lucci is the one that sees the world government as the true power, even over his own power, and he's willing to do whatever they say, simply because he was conditioned that way. So, going through the notes of this chapter, Dragon, Ivankov, and Sabo discuss the aftermath effects of the Revolutionaries' army invasion of Marijois. Sabo claims to have accomplished all of his 3 intended objectives, destroying the hoof of the soaring dragon, which is that symbol that rests in Marijois, freeing as many slaves as they could, including Kuma, and destroying the food stocks of the world nobles. Because of Sabo's actions, 12 countries around the world decided to start rebellions and no longer pay the heavenly tribute, with 8 of them finding success, save for the Leluja Kingdom, which we all know the fate of. Dragon mentions that the God's Knights should be deployed anytime soon against Sabo and the rebelling kingdoms. A flashback of the invasion of Marijois during the Reverie by the Revolutionary Army commanders is shown. It is confirmed the Reverie happened over 1 month ago from the present time. Kanasu battles Admiral Fujitora and is revealed to have eaten the Susu no Mi. Morley battles Admiral Ryokugyu. Lindbergh frees several slaves. Caulifla and Bluno make their first manga appearance after the time skip. And Jabra, Fukuro, and Kumadori make their first appearance after the time skip. Jabra, Kumadori, and Fukuro are now part of CP0. Now, mind you, Caulifla and Bluno, this isn't their first appearance after the time skip, because even though it's non-canon wise, they had their appearance in One Piece film Red, and they're known as like agents of CP0 as well. But this is their first manga appearance. And then, of course, Jabba, Fukudo, and Kumadora make their first appearance after the time skip. It's been years since the events of Enies Lobby. This is the first time that Jabba, Fukudo, and Kumadori have made an appearance after the time skip. And they're all part of CP0 as well. So all the members of CP9, all the major members of CP9 are all a part of CP0. So, does CP9 exist? Randall was a suck-up and a teacher's pet. Yeah, I knew people like that in the past, too. But the question is, if all the major members of CP9 no longer exist, does CP9 exist? Like, let me pull up Cypherpole. Let me pull up Cypherpole real quick. And if I go down to CP9... CP9, let's see... Officially, CP9 doesn't exist. More properly known as Cypherpole number 9, is a secret Cypherpole organization formed of people able to use the Rokushiki techniques, or 6 powers. They are the main antagonist group of the Water 7 saga, specifically the Water 7 and the Enies Lobby's arc. The organization members are also the central characters from CP9's independent report cover page serial. So I'm looking. Unlike the 8 official Cypher Police groups, CP9's members are not centered on intelligence gathering, but instead specialize in covert assassination of targets deemed a threat to the world government. Members are gathered at childhood and are trained both physically and mentally to become powerful killers, discarding emotions in order to become more efficient in missions. Rob Lucci, the most powerful member in the organization's history, had become almost incapable of mercy or accepting weakness due to this. However, younger members such as Kaku have demonstrated a wider array of emotions and even compassion, proving the mind molding is not always successful. So like I said, Lucci was basically brainwashed to be basically what he is. CP9 has been subdivided into two teams when the whole group was not needed for a mission. One group consists of Kaku, Bluno, Caulifla, and the leader, Lucci. This group was sent to Water 7 to retrieve the blueprints of the ancient weapon Pluton from Iceberg. We need to go down to all of their members. So, and we had the top for CP9, Spandine, and Spandam. And then underneath that, we have Rob Lucci, Kaku, Jabra, Bluno, Kumadori, Fukudo, Caulifla, and Nero, who's the rat dude, whose status is completely unknown. And then we have assassins from the previous generation, Lasky, who used to be a member of CP9, and then some unknown dude with shades. And then we have the pets, who are Hattori and Funkfried, which is the sword of Spandam. So these are the only known members of CP9. Now, mind you, the major members, except for Nero, are all CP0, which means that Nero is pretty much the only person left in CP9, but his status is completely unknown. So, members' fate. Spandine left group and succeeded by his son Spandam. Lasky left the group, status unknown. Who's Who, imprisoned for failing a mission to guard the Gum Gum fruit, but broke out of prison. Later became a pirate captain and then a member of the Beast Pirates Tobiropo. Spandam, devastatingly injured by Usopp, Frankie, and Nico Robin. Later became a member of CP0. I don't know how, because he's literally the weakest member of the entire CP9 group. Funkfried, unknown. Rob Lucci, defeated by Monkey D. Luffy, fired from the group and became a fugitive. Later became a member of CP0. Because there's no way that the world government is going to allow someone as strong as Rob Lucci to run around free, so why not just bring him back into the fold? Because that's an individual you don't want going up against you. Hattori, fired from the group and became a fugitive. Later became a member of CP0 along with his master, Rob Lucci. Kaku, defeated by Roronoa Zoro, fired from the group and became a fugitive. Later became a member of CP0. Jabra, defeated by Sanji, fired from the group and became a fugitive. You already know the rest of this. Bluno, defeated by Luffy, fired from the group. It's pretty much the same thing. Kumadori, defeated by Chopper. Fukudo, defeated by Frankie. Caulifla, defeated by Nami. And Nero, defeated by Frankie, fired from the group and thrown into the ocean by Lucci. So, his status is unknown. We don't even know if Nero survived falling into the water, whether he can swim or not. Because if he didn't, then there's no one else left in CP9. And thus, CP9 is just defunct and useless now because there's no one in it. Technically, they don't technically exist, so it's not like losing CP9 is a major thing, but now you got these individuals in CP0 as well. Well, CP9 never existed officially. All right. I miss Kumadori. I'm glad to see this guy. Yo! I'm more surprised Spandam was even allowed in CP02. Lucci probably has Spandam as the group's butler or assistant. I wonder if Nero has learned the other 6 powers yet, if he's alive. So many questions. But let's keep going. That was the end of chapter 183, where it ended with King Cobra. I still haven't gone through everything. Vivi verbally confronts Rob Lucci, who is in charge of her security near the Red Port Bondola. Vivi is worried that Charlos will go after Shirahoshi again, and then Cobra asks Chaka and Pell to look after Vivi. So these are all the major notes that happened in chapter 1083. The last chapter, however, puts so many implications towards the future of One Piece and what it means for a lot of people going forward. So going forward, chapter 1084, the attempted murder of a celestial dragon. And then it cuts to inside Pangaea Castle, where we see a bunch of royal guards having their armor crushed and burned at the same time because of the efforts of Sabo. And at this moment, Sabo meets Jewelry Bonnie, and they're both running to one location because they both want to get Kuma. And then it has people screaming, "Intruder in the guard room! The keys to the slave collars have been stolen!" You know, I heard that Kuma had a daughter, and I've been following the news articles about the Revolutionary Army's activities, which is why I trust you guys. Take my father to safety. Then it cuts to Karasu, who takes the keys from Sabo so that Karasu can give them to Morley and the others, that once Kuma and the slaves are out of their chains, they're to head to headquarters. The mission is over, because Sabo pretty much completed his objectives. And then Sabo says, "I'll be right behind you once I've taken care of business." And then Karasu leaves with the keys. "What's your next move, Bonnie?" "I'll go to Egghead and ask Vegapunk if he has a way to bring my father back to his senses. And if he doesn't, then this way!" And then it cuts to Sabo launching into the air with Bonnie, landing on a pillar as some guards make their way through. "That's strange. I know I saw someone. There are even fewer guards from this tower than before, and it's already way too large for us to cover." "What, you don't know? When people go missing, it's usually because they saw it." "Saw it?" "Something they shouldn't have." "Like what?" "The lost chamber." "Shh, don't say it out loud, not even as a joke." So that's one subject that I'm pretty sure is going to be elaborated on in future chapters. But that's not even the really big thing that happens in this chapter either. So going forward, Sabo is listening in on this whole conversation, and Bonnie goes, "Thank you." And then basically, Sabo is the one who turns Bonnie into the direction of where Egghead is. Egghead's in the new world, but we're heading to sea in the opposite direction. The best of luck to you. It feels really weird to have revolutionaries doing me favors like this. We both want to save the same person. I know, take care of Dad. And then it cuts to Cobra speaking to the Gorosei. "What do you ask of us, King Cobra, King of Alabasta?" "Ah, yes, where should I start? The world government we know today began 800 years ago, when it was created by a group of 20 kings. As the newly styled creators of the world, they moved here to Marijua with their families, where they became known as celestial dragons, and have ruled over the world for the 8 centuries since. Amongst themselves, the 20 kings have always been equals, and to prevent one from ruling over the others as a dictator, they created the empty throne, and placed 20 weapons around it to symbolize their oath to never claim that seat. In the 20 kingdoms that had lost their royal families, new kings were chosen whose rule continues to this day. Therefore, the first 20 dynasty names are no longer found in the lands from whence they came. But Alabasta is different. The monarch at that time, Queen Lily of the Nefeltari dynasty, was counted among the first 20, but did not become a celestial dragon, choosing to return to Alabasta and continue the Nefeltari line in her homeland, where the name still reigns. That is why, in actuality, there are only 19 weapons surrounding the throne. And the Gorosei are wondering why he's asking these questions. This is all correct, but what is your point? I was going through old historical documents from my royal library. The only history one can peruse there comes from documents after the span of the Void Century, and yet there is no mention of Queen Lily's name. She did not come back to rule Alabasta after that. Lily's younger brother took the throne in Alabasta instead. Is there anything you might be able to tell me about her? And of course, we know the Gorosei are lying. We know they're lying. They know more than they let on. I mean, they are the people who know the true history of the world, but don't want the world to know, because it could turn the world completely upside down. Even more than it already is, due to recent events in the entire story. That's what you wanted to ask? And it cuts to Im-sama. We don't know if it's a he or a she who's under this big old silhouette. They're listening in on this whole conversation in their garden. It was 800 years ago. It is recorded fact that the ruler from the Nefeltari dynasty did not live here, but we assume that she had gone back home. Whatever her reasons or actions were, they had long been lost to the cobwebs of time. I'm sorry, I cannot help you. And like I said during my reaction, the Gorosei know more than they know. They know more than they're letting on. Cobra knew he was going to die, so he pretty much had nothing to lose? Of course! Why else ask these burning questions that he knows for a fact would draw the Gorosei's ire? Especially talking about the Void Century. Just talking about the Void Century, just mentioning the word Void Century puts you under a microscope of the Gorosei. For him to be in front of the Gorosei and saying this voluntarily. They already knew there was a purpose behind this, because he wasn't just gonna casually drop the Void Sentry in the middle of this conversation and it not be significant, because only so many people know about the Void Sentry itself, and knowledge of the Void Sentry, or even trying to learn about the Void Sentry, is punishable by death. That's why they're trying to kill Vegapunk right now, because he knows too much. And like you said, Ozzy, Cobra knows he's going to die. So why not go out knowing this information to give you that kind of closure? Because there's no way the world government is going to let him leave that place alive knowing what he knows. So we continue. They have long been lost to the cobwebs of time. I'm sorry I cannot help you. In that case, what is the D? Which is something else that the Gorosei doesn't want people to know about. Specifically, remember when Luffy's new bounty poster that puts his 3 billion berry bounty out there, it showed his name being Monkey D. Luffy. And this is something that the Gorosei was very adamant about not including in his name, because they don't want people to wonder. They don't even want people to even wonder what the D would mean, because it could lead to questions that the Gorosei does not want the world to have answered. They're so adamant about people having D in their name or having it on their bounty poster that they're willing to make it so that the D doesn't even appear on the name. That's what they did to Gold D. Rogers' bounty poster. He was called Gold Roger just so that the D in his name wouldn't arise any questions. So they called him Gold Roger. So if they were to continue that trend, then Monkey D. Luffy would just be Monkey Luffy. To their eyes, that would be far better for his name to be known throughout the world to be Monkey Luffy. Monkey Luffy. I feel like they're already pushing it, and they're just letting it slide due to the fact that Garp is a part of the world government, even though he's a D as well. And then you got Dragon, who's a D as well. All these Ds have very significant implications of the world at large. Monkey D. Luffy is currently one of the newest Yonkos, replacing Kaido along with Buggy, being Kaido and Big Mom along with Buggy. Then we have Monkey D. Garp going out of his way to rescue Kobe from Hachinosu, and showing him that not only, basically showing us the reason why he was the only one who was able to contend with Roger on a regular basis in his day. Still showing the strength, and not only his strength, but his armament haki and Conqueror's haki as well. Then we got Monkey D. Dragon, the leader of the revolutionary army that's trying to get rid of the entire world government as a whole. Every time they do something, it is always significant. Garp is out there challenging a Yonko's entire homeland, entire home base right now. We got Luffy out here, just recently christened of one of the emperors, and he's clashing and having to deal with everything that's going on with Egghead. And then you got Dragon, who's setting things in motion for him to bring down the Celestial Dragons. And that's just the Ds that I know. That's just the Ds that are most significant right now. We still have all these other Ds that exist out in the world, but the mention of the letter D is just so significant to the fact where even the world government is like, we can't have any more people of these Ds out here. Man is in a wheelchair and shows his Giga Chad energy. Seriously, he's in a state where he can't easily get away from the world government if he tried. So he's out there putting all his cards on the table, showing everyone this is how you stand up to a corrupt government. And it's all like, okay, answer these questions that I know for a fact can get me killed. Answer these questions. Which made absolutely no sense why they had the D on Luffy's previous bounty posters, and the same goes for Teach. Like, it probably, I don't know. They done it to Laws too, though I'm not sure if they know Law is a D though, so that probably doesn't count. Sengoku and Robin are the only ones that know Law is a D. And since Sengoku is one who keeps that sort of knowledge on the hush-hush, I don't think he would have included it. Because, one, it already causes trouble when that name is brought up. And two, because Law happens to be the very individual that Rocinante gave up his life for. So part of me thinks that he probably hasn't put it out there so that the world government doesn't target Law as well. Considering how much Sengoku respected Don Quixote Rocinante when he saw Rocinante as his own son. So it stands to reason that, of course, he's not going to just put it out there because it's going to cause trouble, but also he's doing it out of respect for Rocinante, the very individual that he respected as his son. I'm pretty sure he did it out of the respect for him because Rocinante risked his life for law. So he probably didn't bring it to the world government's attention because, I mean, even secretly, he was communicating with Rocinante and no one knew but him. So that's how I feel about it. Yeah, with Teach, they really screwed up there. They could have took the easy way out and put Blackbeard on the wanted posters. I honestly feel like it was at this time, I feel like during the time when these posters were put up, they didn't think too much of these individuals. They probably didn't think that they were going to be a significant threat at the time of their bounties being posted. Like having the first one was like a dude that only had like 30 million berries. Of course, he was beating a certain amount of people, but it wasn't until he beat Crocodile it wasn't until he beat Crocodile, a person that was affiliated with the world government, that they cast their attention on Luffy. Because mind you, when his bounty poster was originally posted, they didn't care until Luffy beat one of their members of the 7 warlords, and it's all like, okay, this dude beat one of our 7 warlords. Okay, what's else? What's on the matter? Also, his name has D in it. Excuse me? That's exactly how. Think about it. Think about it. They probably didn't pay Luffy any mind until they saw that he had a D in his name and he's beaten one of their warlord members. That's how I feel. I feel like they didn't think too much about Luffy until he beaten one of their posted pirate affiliates, and it's all like, who beat Crocodile? Oh, just some kid. Nah, well, let's not worry about him. Monkey D. Luffy. Did you say D? Just think about it. And I'm pretty sure when they saw Blackbeard and noticed that he didn't have a bounty at all, they probably thought that he wasn't significant either. But he brought an ace after he beat him. So they probably didn't think too much of these 2 individuals that had D in their name at the beginning. Mind you, they already know of. It's kind of a mixed bag when you think about it, because they probably didn't think of it too much about Monkey D. Luffy and Marshall D. Teach, but they know of Dragon. They know his name. So maybe they just thought it was an odd coincidence. But now that they're seeing just how much ground and how many events are transpiring around these individuals with D in their name, they've gotten far more attentive to individuals that have that in their name. So all the more reason for them to be like a lot more attentive. With Blackbeard, though, they knew he was a D and was someone who brought in the 2nd Division commander of Whitebeard Pirates, no less, is really suspicious. I feel like they only did that. They only did that to not only keep Blackbeard under surveillance. This is just my assumption. They probably only brought Blackbeard in to keep him under surveillance and watch him. So that's the reason why they invited him to be one of the warlords. Because he's a person with D in their name. And mind you, you can't keep tabs on Luffy all that often. I mean, you could, but having someone who's one of your warlords, you can keep tabs on them. Find out where they're going. So linking Blackbeard with the world government allows them to be all like, okay, we got a D right here in the group. We can keep an eye on him. But let's keep an eye out for this Luffy individual as well. So Blackbeard being part of the warlords could be a way for them to keep an eye on one additional D to make sure that D doesn't stir up trouble. So right, when the Gorosei were introduced in the story, that's when they started paying attention to Luffy. Exactly. When they were first introduced, and they have no idea what havoc Luffy wreaked on Skypiea. For all I know, they don't even know that Skypiea exists. Or at least doesn't know how to get there. Because imagine the world government knowing how to get to Skypiea and going up against Enel, or the citizens of Skypiea as well, trying to get up there. You would see you would see at least 1 or 2 more Marines up there, but there's not a hint of Marine presence up there because they don't even know how to, they probably don't even know how to get up there. Or maybe that whole entire area doesn't interest them. But I'm getting off track here. We still have more to go. So, Cobra brings up the question, in that case, what is the D? And then, of course, the Gorosei's eyes narrow because they know exactly, Cobra knows exactly what he's asking. He knows exactly what he's asking. They know what he's asking because Cobra's not stupid. Cobra's extremely smart. For him to bring up this whole story about how the very first empress that ruled the Nefeltari line and was one of the people that was part of the nations that started the world government, for him to go that far back in history, Cobra's not dumb. Cobra's not dumb. People who go that far back in their history to drop all this knowledge onto the Gorosei, they're not stupid. And they know he's not stupid. So they know that there's a reason why he's asking. So the bald-headed member of the Gorosei says, "Why do you ask that?" Well, you see, there is a brief 800-year-old letter that she passed down through our line of kings. And this is news to the Gorosei because as far as they know, knowledge of the Void Century or anything that went on during the Void Century has either been destroyed or it's in the hands of the Gorosei and Im-sama themselves. That's as far as they know. Any other knowledge of it, it's in the minds of people who are soon to be killed. But this is news to the Gorosei because they never thought that what if an individual who was there at the beginning of the formation of the world government kept an account that was passed down from king to king. They never thought that what happens if a member of the world government that started it all went back to their home country and then just continued their legacy, but passed down their accounts from king to king to king over 8 centuries. They wouldn't even know. They wouldn't even know. So this is surprising to them to find out that a letter that is from the very first queen of Alabasta has been passed down from king to king, from leader to leader, all the way down to Cobra right now. And then it cuts to the Mingling courtyard where Charlos is having Kuma wrap up Shirahoshi in a whole bunch of chains. And of course, Fukaboshi is getting tired of seeing his sister being manhandled by Charlos, as Charlos says, like, "What do you eat? I'll take you on walks every day, my pet, only I'll be riding you. And if you don't obey my orders, I'll do unspeakable things to you." And we all know that Charlos is one of the most ugliest individuals in the entire story of One Piece. So him saying all these things is disgusting. But Shirahoshi, I mean, she's still tearing up and crying as she's asking for people to help her. And all the people that were trying to get her attention beforehand, mainly the dudes, the suitors that wanted to go after Shirahoshi, and Shirahoshi was all like, "No, I'm not interested." And they were all like, "What? You're refusing me? Don't you know who I am?" And it's all like, don't nobody care who you are. But all this is going on, and those very same people that wanted to get Shirahoshi's attention beforehand all decide to run away because they say it's not worth it to tangle with a celestial dragon when he has his eyes set on something. So they all run away, and Fukaboshi is all like, "I'm sorry for taking my eyes off of you, Shirahoshi. We're leaving this horrible place and we're never coming back." I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I don't blame the Neptunians for never coming back. I don't blame the people of Fishman Island for never going to yet another Reverie. Because I honestly have to say this. I feel like the world government as it is, it's on borrowed time. It's on borrowed time. Things are not working out well for the world government when you think about it. Too many things have been happening for people to steadfastly keep their faith in the world government. They keep having setback after setback at every turn. Places that are ravaged by pirates are being liberated by pirates. You know, people who should be protected by the Navy and the world government are being protected by the very individuals the navies work so hard to defend these citizens against. So, the world government as a whole really has just been existing to keep its own status quo going. Sure, it'll protect people because it makes them look good. But as far as creating a world of peace, and creating a world of peace where everyone can live equally and happily, that does not exist. So, I'm just saying, the world government as a whole is on major borrowed time. because their relevance to the world is becoming more and more irrelevant. Like, think about it. What is the world government doing right now? What is the world government doing right now that you would say is necessary for the world to continue? Or for the state of the world to continue? What is the world government doing right now that says they need to go on? Think about it. I'll wait. I'll wait for an answer. I'll wait. Don't worry, I'll wait. I'll wait. What is the world government doing that can cause a person to say, like, no, they can go on a little bit longer, or they need to keep going because of this, or they need to keep going because of that? Because they're not maintaining the peace. We got 8 nations that are already rebelling against him. We got the revolutionaries attacking their very stronghold right now. We got pirates liberating entire countries from other pirates, something that the Navy has been incapable of doing ever since Alabasta. What is the world government doing that's going to cause them to be seen as necessary in the eyes of the people? They've done nothing. You have an answer? Absolutely nothing. Bingo! Ozzy won. Absolutely nothing. The world government just exists for the sake of existing. Their attempts to stamp out pirates has failed at every turn. Pirates are taking out other pirates. Now, mind you, this doesn't help the world government, because even their own goals, well, their own overall goals for the world have never been stated whatsoever. They just exist. But every type of effort to make themselves look better has only made them look worse. You're more surprised how it's lasted this long, to be fair, because it hasn't come. There's been very few pirates who have stood up to the world government more defiantly than this generation. Mind you, the old generation stood up against the world government. Gold Roger's a big shining example, but he didn't want to see the end of the world government, because that sort of thing didn't interest him. He just wanted to sail the world, and he did it. He just had fun with his crew, and he sailed the entire land and came across the area that would become known as Laugh-Tale, christened it so, and became the person who would be known as the king of the pirates, who did the one thing that no one could ever do, which was explore all of the world and everything that it had to offer. And then he willingly turned himself in because he was already dying of disease before sparking an age of piracy that still exists to this very day, that inspired numerous other people. Then you got Kaido, who from a young age was already monstrously strong. His nation was so downtrodden that they thought that selling off Kaido would allow them to be part of the main, they thought that selling him off to the world government would be a way for them to be still affiliated with the world government. Didn't work. Wound up creating a pirate crew of monstrously strong people, with him one day wanting to issue the world into an age of violence. Then you have Big Mom, who basically created an entire nation for herself with a ton of her own children, and she just wanted to create a nation where every people are there to live equally. But none of these individuals, save for Kaido, and maybe even Doflamingo as well, wanted to issue in a world where the world government to no longer were the ruling bodies of the world. And that's just the old generation. Mind you, they didn't really do too much because they were too busy preparing for these sort of things to happen. But you got the new generation. The newest generation that is far more defiant, far more flippant, far more intolerant of the status quo than any other generation of pirates that have ever been. Wait, Lucci was there when he stopped Charlos from being attacked the first time, right? Why did he leave when he knew Sai and Leo and the others were there and were most likely going to attack Charlos? Because he's assigned to Vivi's security detail. So, of course, he's going to, keep watch over Vivi. Vivi was not in the same room when she left off before all these events happened, where Sai and Leo gave Charlos that new chiropractic procedure that he so justly deserved. And also, Ogata-san also says that he also told Lucci to leave as well. And you see when it comes to the Celestial Dragons, a lot of the people have Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, you're right. Indoctrination is a powerful tool. It really is. All you have to do is just make an example of a few nations, and then the rest of the nations don't want to be under that sort of microscope. So that can cause the world government to not only be an untouched section of the world, but anyone who's affiliated will spread it through word of mouth that, hey, you don't want to mess with the world government, or otherwise you're going to wind up like these other nations, or this person, or that person. Fear is a very powerful motivator, and it does keep a lot of people in power. So, continuing on, Fugoboshi is ready to fight until Kuma is ordered to fire upon them by Charlos, and he proceeds to fire on all of them. And then it cuts to Charlos going, go ahead and kill them, Kuma, just pay enough money and even royalty will let us get away with it, especially measly fishmen. So, more racism right there. And basically him saying like, hey, if you give enough money, then even royalty will let us get away with it. So he really thinks that, hey, if I pay these fishermen enough money or give them enough money, I can do basically whatever I want. Not realizing that Fukaboshi and his brothers love their sister dearly. Their care for their feelings towards their sister goes beyond money, which means like, hey, I don't care what status you are. I don't care where you are at in the world. I don't care how famous you are. I don't care how much money you have. You're messing with my sister, we're going to kill you. That's family. That's family. You gotta love it. But it cuts to Leo watching everything going on. It's going, Shirahoshi! It's that guy again, Rebecca. Then it cuts to Sai as Sai goes, hey, Miasgard, can I do it this time? And Miasgard is all like, be my guest. I'll take full responsibility for the outcome. So Sai, I mean, before he got attacked by Sai and Leo, but yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, he was sent away by Miasgard beforehand. And of course, Vivi left as well, so he, stuck to Vivi. But Sai was all like, hey, Miasgard, can I do it this time? And then Miasgard says, be my guest, I'll take full responsibility for the outcome. But not you, Fukaboshi, royalty, stay back. And Fukaboshi's all like, what, why? Why the double standard, Miasgard? You ask us to stand aside when our own sisters... They can simply run away. They have no nation to support. They're pirates. And it cuts to Sai and Leo, who start flipping in the air. And I didn't notice it at the time, but Leo is doing the same type move that Sai is as they launch into the air. And they bring a tail hammer and a dragon nail directly onto the head of Charlos, causing him to basically to be cartoonishly flattened into his own body. And seeing a celestial dragon and they hit him so hard that his body actually gets embedded into the ground. This amount of force causes his whole body to just sink in on itself into a small crater into the ground. And everyone seeing a celestial dragon being hit with such extreme force, they automatically think he's dead. It's all over! He's dead! It's a murder scene! The murder of a celestial dragon! And it cuts to Kuma, who's preparing to fire on Leo and company. And then it cuts to Morley, who grabs Kuma from behind, and then they all leave. And they all just dip. And then it cuts to Roswald, who's looking at his flattened son, going, no, my son! And then it cuts to King Cobra, who's inside the room with the Gorosei, and Im-sama starts to silently walk up the stairs, which surprises the Gorosei as they go, oh, Great Imu, but King Cobra is still present. What? And then Im-sama speaks for the very first time and mentions the name Lily, and then proceeds to sit on the empty throne itself. And that's the end of the chapter in and of itself. Vin Diesel would be proud of them? Yeah, he would. I hope Charlos looks like that forever. So do I. I hope he never gets back. I hope he never regains his original body shape again. So, let's go over this chapter, and then I'll bring it to a close. This has been a fantastic conversation. I've been going for 2 hours? Wow. I didn't even notice. Time flies when you're having fun. This is such a wonderful job. Thank you all for the support after all these years. Thank you. Thank you so much. But going through the chapter notes, Sabo meets up with Jewelry Bonnie, Bonnie allows the revolutionaries to take Kuma with them while she will head to Egghead to talk to Vegapunk about reversing her father's condition. Sabo finds the keys to the slaves' exploding collars and hands them over to Karasu. Sabo overhears some guards speaking about a room known as the Lost Chamber. According to one of the guards, those who look into this chamber tend to mysteriously disappear. Charlos manages to restrain Shirahoshi with Kuma's assistance. They say assistance, but Kuma really did all the work because Charlos don't do no work. Kuma attacks the Ryugu Kingdom's princes. Miasgard gives Sai and Leo permission to attack Charlos while ordering the Ryugu Kingdom princes to stand down. Now, I need to speak about this moment very briefly, because it shows you just how smart Miasgard is. He knows that something needs to be done about the insanity that is Charlos. So, instead of allowing Fukaboshi and his brothers to do something, which could then, therefore, put his entire nation in jeopardy, he allows the pirates to do something because they're pirates. They have no nation that they're affiliated with. They don't owe allegiances to the world government. And if something happens while these pirates, something happens under the effects of these pirates, all the pirates have to do is just run away and go and just deal with being chased by the government. That's it. Whereas if princes of a royal family were to do it, it could cause their entire nation to be cut off from the world government and therefore left at the mercy of basically anything else. So it's actually smart to let pirates be the one to deal this blow to Charlos. So, continuing on, well, actually, let me read this comment real quick. Sai hopefully pulled a Garp on Charlos like Garp did to Don Chinjiao. I hope he dented in his head as well. I hope Sai dented in his head as well. Because seeing Sai and Leo crash on top of Sai, as a matter of fact, hold on, let me see. Hold on. But let me pull up Sai, and let me go to his attacks real quick. Physical abilities and powers. Let's see. Where is it? Hashoken. There it is. I was looking for a Hashoken, which is called 8 Impact Fists in the dub, and then Hashoken in the Viz and Funimation dubs as well. So if we go to Sai's techniques, his Drill Dragon Drill Nail. His Drill Dragon Drill Nail is the same move he used against Lao Ji, which is the Hashoken secret technique bestowed upon his leg upon proving his might against his predecessor. Sai performs cartwheels while imbuing his leg with armament haki, and then performs a kick with vibrations emitting from said leg. Chinjiao claimed that with this, Sai should be able to break apart the layers of ice in the same way Chinjiao did 30 years back. This technique was first used when Chinjiao bestowed him the Hashoken's secret technique upon his leg, defeating Lao Ji and sending a massive shockwave linear to the kick, as well as creating a fissure along the ground. So, in combination with Leo, who uses his tail hammer as well, they both use an attack that basically flattens Charlos's head. Wait, has Sabo gotten more powerful with his flame fruit at time? Hold on. I wouldn't say he's gotten more powerful with it, but I'd say he's probably finessed his control over it. I'd say he's gotten a lot more. He's fine-tuned his control for it. So going back to the page notes here. Sai and Leo flattened Charlos's head, which was later reported as an attempted murder plot. Morley and Karasu managed to snatch Kuma away. King Cobra has his audience with the 5 elders. He wants to know the mystery of what happened to his ancestor Lily, who was one of the leaders that founded the world government, but disappeared after its foundation with no record of her name. According to Cobra, there is a letter written by Lily that has been passed down for generations among the Nefeltari family, seemingly containing references to the will of D. M overhears the conversation from their room. M shows up and sits down on the empty throne, shocking Cobra, who is still present. So, going through everything that's happened, I'm going to go ahead and close out this manga page so we can talk just for this little bit, and then we can bring it to a close. Going off of these events, I have to say, hold on, sorry. I was watching a Game Grumps episode earlier. Going back through this, I'd love to see the reaction of everyone who witnessed it and have no clue about Tontatta's, like, a celestial dragon got knocked out with one of the culprits being around the same size as a toothpick. Because as far as anyone knows, not a lot of people know about the Tontattas. Namely, it's just the people of Dressrosa who know of the Tontattas, because the Tontattas don't ever leave Dressrosa. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sai is framed for it, unless they get Leo's name completely and they fully recognize him, and then he's on the run along with Sai. But all these events that are going and transpiring right now, we're getting so much more information. We're getting so much more information about the things that went on during Marie Joie, during the Reverie, like over a month ago. Also finding out new information, such as the history of the Nefeltari family, such as we hear that Queen Lily was basically the person who helped found the world government, but her name has been wiped from history, which makes it odd, because the only reason why the world government will wipe a name from history is either it's a name that could... Bro, chapter 185 is out, not officially, so I don't care. I do not care. I don't read fan scans. I only read the chapters when they release on Sundays. So it's nice that chapter's out, but I only read chapters that are officially released. Thank you for letting me know, Nika, but I'm not interested in reading those chapters until Sunday drops. But one thing that makes this interesting is that the only time the world government wipes the name of an individual from their history books, it's really because that person either knows too much, could in fact do something to the history, due to the history of the world government, and it divulge information that they don't want to know. So it just makes you wonder why the world government would hide the name out of the history books, because it's never really mentioned about other people whose names are written out of history. But it seems incredibly significant that one of the founding nations, one of the founding leaders of all the royal families for the world government, their name would be completely wiped from history. So that's very interesting. Then we have this knowledge of this place called the Lost Chamber. So it should be interesting to find out what that is, and how anyone who finds that room just mysteriously disappears. There's so many questions revolving around that. Then we have Nefeltari Cobra basically saying, like, hey, in this letter from 800 years ago, we know the events. Yo, Neil Johnson, member for 12. Member for 14 months. Thank you for your continued support, Neil. I greatly appreciate it. Hey, peoples, to you too. Hey, to you too. But it makes you wonder how much information we know Rox was too. We know Rox was? Wait, Rox was? Was he, though? Rox had the ambition to become king of the world, naturally opposed to the current globe ruling party, including the world governments, who were the focus of his attacks during the God Valley incident. Was he, though? Oh, erased. Oh, right. Sorry. I was misreading that. Yeah, erased from history according to Sengoku. So that's another individual whose name was erased from history. Rox and Queen Lily. So it's interesting the significance between the two of them. So my thing is, I wonder where we're going to go as far as the story is concerned. That's a rhetorical question. I want to find out when the chapter drops on Sunday, which will be happening at its usual time since I don't have any presiding things to do. But all the chapters we got in May just gives us more questions that we want the answers to. And there's no telling where the next chapter is going to bring us. But I am excited, though. So overall, I did enjoy these chapters, but now it just puts into my head the intrigue. I have to say, for a story like One Piece, I never thought I'd be this invested in the intrigue of this entire... I never thought I'd be interested in the intrigue of this entire story. That's how I feel about it. I never thought I'd be interested in the mysteries of this story, like the history of D, the history of the world, the Void Century, history past when the world government was founded. Just all these different things. Like, the longer I think about it, it's like I've never been this invested into the world building of a story this huge. Like, you guys hear me say it all the time. And that's pretty much the reason why I have streams talking about mainly One Piece. Sure, I had one for My Hero Academia in the past, and I may have one for Jujutsu Kaisen in the future, so I can cover that as well. But when it comes to the world building in manga, I feel like One Piece really does set a precedent that just puts it on a higher level than so many other series, because the world building for One Piece is deep. Incredibly deep. Like, you could just sit for hours learning about the history of One Piece, just going through its chapters, piecing it all together. You could spend hours just on the One Piece Wiki, which is basically a combination of all information we know of One Piece gathered in one place, which I'm going to avoid until I read the next chapter. But it's just, there's so much information about One Piece that we don't know. And yet the world of One Piece is so vast and so huge that it's going to take us forever for us to fully learn what's going on there. I mean, there's not many options who kill Cobra. We either have a Holy Knight, one of the 5 Elders, or Im-sama. Hopefully we'll find out. Hopefully we actually get to see who killed Cobra in the next chapter. I hope so as well. I'm not going to keep talking about what we could see in the next chapter due to I don't want to, risk anyone blurting out anything new before I see it on the chapters. So I'm going to close out this stream with this. The story, wow. I sounded like I was supposed to have a list with something. But the story of One Piece is so undeniably deep that for people who are new to One Piece, it's going to take them a minute to get to where we are. But overall, the story for One Piece is just so monumentally huge that just thinking about when One Piece finally ends, there's going to be a massive void that I don't think any other series is going to be able to fill whatsoever. I don't think there's going to be any other series that does what One Piece has done as far as a manga is concerned. As big as it has. New word of the day, Thori. Yeah, I had like a little bit of a list there. Like, I don't know why I put my tongue in my mouth like that for me to say the story. The story of One Piece is undeniably huge, and I have to say that Oda has done a masterwork of putting so much mystery and intrigue. I'ma stop. Overall, I love One Piece. Is Sori the Soren Knight of the Sea parody? Sori, the Soren Knight of the Sea! No, I don't think so. He's like a rough draft character. But I love One Piece. I love the series. I love what it's done for my channel. I love reading it. It's entertaining. It's good. The character development is good as well. I'm looking forward to the very next chapter this upcoming Sunday. I enjoyed all these chapters that we got in May. Tomorrow starts June. We are entering into summer territory, so who knows what information we are going to learn in June. I say this about every month, but we always get something monumental. Last month, we got Shanks and Garp pretty much carrying all of April. May, we have the story of Marie-Joie carrying all of May. So now we need to see what is going to carry June. Should be interesting. But I'm done, ladies and gentlemen. Almost 2 hours and 30 minutes worth of me talking about One Piece. I really do hope you all enjoyed. Let me go and end it here because my food is here. It's nice and hot. I have a nice cool drink. And then I'm just going to chill just for a little bit before I have to get ready to do things for later. I'm still working on things I'm doing for streams later this week and later for this upcoming June. I still got to do all that and formulate all this. Your boy stays busy. Even when I'm not streaming, I am always busy. Because when you do stuff like this, there's never a shortage of a dull moment. Everyone, thank you for the continued support of this channel in any way that you see fit. I am grateful regardless of what sort of way you choose to support the channel. I'm grateful regardless. I don't sweat the small stuff. You just showing up here is more than enough for me, because that means that what I'm doing is working. What I'm doing is more than enough. So what you do is more than enough, regardless of what it is. To everyone here, it's an honor to be your entertainer. Thank you for joining me for today's talks about One Piece, and I look forward to our next session. To everyone here, all I can say at the end of the day is, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed what you saw here today, then like, subscribe, share this stream with everyone you know, because the more the merrier as we go towards 100,000 subscribers. And maybe even consider becoming a member, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later peoples!